It's April 8th, 2022. I'm Sonatina, and this is Linguistics You Can Use. Uh, Today's date. It's an interesting one, don't you think? 4 8 22. The the uh, the way that the numbers, kind of go into each other or work together. They're a fun. Uh, it's a fun date, don't you think? Interesting. 4 8 22. Is it a coincidence that this episode happened to fall on this date? I mean, maybe not really, because, right, like, I could have chosen any subject to talk about today. So, what is a coincidence? And a better question, what is syncretism? And how does our brain create this idea of syncretism? What do these concepts have to do with each other? So, that is our topic for the day. Um, so, as we move into the topic, I would encourage you to let me know if you have any thoughts on this topic, on either one of these words. Are they new to you? Are they familiar to you? Do they conjure up some feeling or emotion, idea, memory, right? The act of creating meaning is what we're going to be dealing with a lot of today. So I want to, kind of put us in a place of fun, of what is discussion? What is discussion? What is this conversation? What is this conversation, you know, that I am having with you in this chronological pattern, right? Or manner, right? I am engaging in conversation with you, my wonderful viewers who have been sending me some comments about some of the things that these videos have brought up for you. And I so very much appreciate that. And so I think of what it means to come into people's lives, to be at a place, be in the moment where, for some reason, the message clicks. That's the journey that I have gone through often in my exploration of what it is to be me, to become me, to continually become me. My conception, my history with these two words is a lot around how people come in and out of my life. The history of coincidence is something we might we will go into, we will go into syncretism as well. I have some, sources pulled up, ready to go to share. And that is why I am starting with this little internal journey, right? Because before we go on an exploration of how these two words exist in the world, in my time, I find it valuable to examine how I currently am creating the meaning of this concept. So, it's a continual process, a back and forth, if you will, of looking at what is coincidence? Does this coincidence change my understanding of the concept, or does it solidify that concept? And the same with syncretism. Now, that word might be unfamiliar to many people of you who are watching today, and yet there's a reason that they're together. And you might feel like why these two words feel familiar together, similar, you know? And that's one of the things we'll be going through today. So, laying the foundation of coincidence and syncretism. In my personal life, I find that I follow coincidences to see how life will roll out for me, right? That's not to say that I don't instigate coincidences potentially. But to me, the value of living the life that I am living right now is to appreciate this moment. And so when my brain makes connections and says, oh, isn't that an interesting coincidence? It's my brain telling me, hey, maybe you should pay attention to that. You've been thinking about this idea for a bit, and all of a sudden, you are able to make a connection that you weren't able to before because of this new experience. What a coincidence. So, maybe that's not your idea of coincidence. It does, however, fall into my conception of syncretism. So why did I put this word with coincidence? Why aren't we just doing coincidence if they're like similar words? Well, syncretism is kind of what I just did, right? Syncretism is the process of crafting meaning from the coincidences that happen in our lives. So I syncretize, you knew that there was, connection there. Yeah. And it's true, right? Syncretism is related to that idea that we are bringing things in sync with each other. And so for me, I use the concept of coincidence to create a syncretic, that's not the right way to say it, create a syncretistic, that's the word, syncretistic system to my life, right? I am creating my life in every moment. And so I find value in noticing the coincidental moments of my particular path through this existence. Uh, what is it? I saw a tweet recently. This electrical meat sack, I think, is the most recent one. So I hope that helped give us a good foundation as we explore the more linguistic side of coincidence and syncretism. So, as I transition into the next section, going from examining ourselves into examining the world is part of, as I said, the process of crafting meaning for ourselves. And some people may find that they don't see value in examining their semantic understanding of words. I do. I think it's valuable to take a moment and analyze the concepts that we are using for definitions. So that's what we're doing next. And be right back after I take a quick break for myself. Welcome back. And what do we have here? Why, it's our lovely friend, my dictionary from the 90s. Coincidence. Let's check it out. What does it say? What did coincidence mean back when I was a kid, when I was just, going through this fiddling myself. Fiddling with the book. Coincidence. It's a noun. The state of coinciding. The state of coinciding. An event or circumstance fortuitously relating in some way to other events or circumstances. Okay, that's good. I like it. Coincidence. Coincident, by the way, has a different entry because this is how dictionaries are created. This is a big one. So, like, in a different dictionary, they probably wouldn't have two different things. I wonder which one would have precedence. But probably the noun. Because it's an adjective, coincident, the point I'm making in terms of focusing on the nuance of these endings, coincidence, the state of coinciding, coincident, coinciding. So one describes what one is. Let's go with that. But we're looking at coincidence. We are looking at coincidence, though, in relation to other versions or other ways or forms of this particular word. And so I did want to make note also of coincide, right? Because as we go from coincidence to coincide, we see how these concepts are, used in our lives and how they have nuance when we are using them in different ways. So, coincide, present participle, to occur at the same time, to occupy the same space, especially in geometry, to be equal or the same in some other non-spatial respect. So, coincidence sounds random to me. An event or circumstance fortuitously relating in some way to other events or circumstances. It's the fortuitously that I think my brain kind of fixates on. Coincide, to be equal or the same in some respect. I'm taking out some of the words that they've put in here just to get to the essence of what I feel is this. And that is the process of creating meaning, crafting meaning for ourselves and what others do. We don't often do this consciously. I do because apparently this is the way that my brain works. So I did this a lot. And when I would look at the different ways, right, that the words worked together and then didn't for some reason. And so for me, the idea that to coincide means that something is equal makes my brain kind of stop. And I want to examine that concept. So, in that way, I want to flip to the next word that we are examining today, which is syncretism. And for that, I need to go to the other end of the dictionary and look up syncretism. Syncretism. Sync has a lot of versions of it, a lot of forms. Syncretism, also a noun. Attempted reconciliation of conflicting or opposite beliefs, e.g., in philosophy or religion, especially uncritically. Now remember, this is from the 90s, So when we go to the other, when we come to the modern, let's see how that, susses out. The development of a religion by the subsuming of older forms. That seems a little bit more neutral. Perception in which incompatible elements are fused, e.g., in dreams. That does sound like a thing that I've heard in dream analysis. The fusion into one or two or more differently inflected grammatical forms of a word. So it also has linguistic elements to it, or like we in linguistics use it to describe our particular specialty. So syncretism and coincidence. We see here, I see here, the relation, the reason that my brain decided that these two words might be fun to examine together. It is interesting to me that the first definition that this book gives indicates that the reconciliation of conflicting or opposite beliefs is the primary definition, while the development of a religion by the subsuming of older forms or perception in which incompatible elements are fused, e.g. in dreams, neither one of those were the primary definition for this dictionary writer at the time, or these dictionary writers at the time. And so I do wonder if any of these people, any of the dictionary writers, happen to have worked on both coincidence and or syncretism. It's interesting to me to think about those kinds of, what was the word from the definition in coincidence? Fortuitous circumstance coming together. But to me, that is part of why I asked that question. Coincidence is, to me, the seed of religion. That might be why, I brought us here. And that is partly because the development of a religion by the subsuming of older forms is, to me, part of it's a result of coincidences. If somebody didn't happen to know parts of the, different religions that they pulled from, they could not have syncretized them. It could not have become syncretism, because the coincidence of the concepts coming together couldn't have existed. So to me, the first definition is in this syncretism word. The attempted reconciliation of conflicting or opposite beliefs, especially uncritically. It doesn't, to me, necessarily vibe with my understanding of how people tend to create their belief systems. Now, you might have a different outlook on this concept, and that's totally valid. The conflicting or opposite beliefs aspect, to me, is the judgment that I'm fixating on, simply because that is somebody else deciding what might be conflicting or opposite beliefs. And so that might not be agreed upon by everybody. And so I'm curious to see what the dictionary online says. Now that we are, we can see the modern definition, not modern, but like, well, technically, yeah. What does it say now? Syncretism, the combination of different forms of belief or practice. A little less judgy, don't you think? The fusion of two or more originally different inflectional forms. That's the grammar version, the grammar definition. So, yeah, the syncretism, the definitions for syncretism seem to have mellowed in the 20 or so years since this dictionary was written. Oh my gosh, has it been 30? I mean, it might have been 30 years since this dictionary was written. People grow, people age. It is a thing. Time, it marches on. So, what does that say to you about how our culture creates meanings, right? I was just explaining to you in this particular time, if I were, doing research and looking up information about these concepts, my brain would have read reconciliation of conflicting or opposite beliefs. And perhaps my brain at the time would not have been able to have parsed that this dictionary is somebody's opinion of what that word means. And it does have a lot of that meaning in there, but not necessarily the full meaning. And at the same time, perhaps that was more of the full meaning when it was written. Language is weird, fun like that. Yeah, we'll go like fun like that. So now we see here the combination of different forms of belief or practice. It's just so much more kind of value neutral in that way, right? Combination. It's just a combination. Or fusion, right? They use fusion in the next one. Fusion of two or more originally different inflectional forms. And that's a fun grammatical, linguistic, you know, definition. So yeah, can't help it to point that one out. Now, I said we would go into the history of this word a bit, and here it is. I appreciate Merriam-Webster giving a more comprehensive, understanding of where our language does come from. Because, as we see, they do talk about how this word has changed and evolved over the centuries in how we create the meaning of it. So, yeah, in the original way, the original, word, it was the joining together of Greeks in opposition to a common enemy. Syncretism, the Cretes coming together. So that's the basis of this particular word, right? Is a group of people, a combination of different, not just individuals, but different collections of individuals coming together to defend their, resources from an outsider. Or maybe even going and taking resources from somebody else, right? That was most of humanity for a long, long time, was just us like taking resources from each other. Maybe we're past that now. We can like share better, right? Anyway, let's not get into that. But it is important, again, I feel, to go into the history of what our words mean and how they come into our language and craft the meaning that we exist under. So we see here English speakers adopted the term to refer to the union of different religious beliefs. People coming together and creating new religions. Sure, sounds like the Greeks coming together and opposing an enemy. 3 centuries later, lexicographers, that's a fun word, of the 1909 edition of Webster's New International Dictionary of the English Language, added a new definition. The union or fusion into one or two or more originally different inflectional forms as of 2 cases. And as we see, this is rarely used outside of linguistics. So we're not going to, dwell too much on it. And then we see here, Merriam-Webster goes into different forms of this word. Syncretize, syncretist, one who advocates syncretism. I think they just called me a syncretist. I'm an ist. I think we're all ists in some way. If we, have opinions, I think we're all ists in a way. But I think this means I'm a syncretist. Yeah. Syncretic and syncretistic. Characterized or brought out by syncretism. I think my life is pretty syncretic. And in that note, let's check out the actual definition. Characterized or brought about by syncretism. Look at that. So this is actually where I saw the, more fuller definition of talking about, where together and Crete, right, all this stuff comes, because pulled up these, I actually prepped for today's stream. And yeah, we have here the way that we use the language. So going back to the other word we started with, coincidence, the act or condition of coinciding. The act or condition of coinciding. The occurrence of events that happen at the same time by accident, but seem to have some connection. Well, I hope that helped, that second definition maybe solidified your, way of seeing that why I was bringing those two together, these two words together. There's so many different ways that we can learn, we can use these words. And I'm going into, the nitty-gritty, the nuance, the details of these concepts, because again, to me, it is valuable to say, what do I honestly really think about our world? And how does my brain make up that reality? Is what I am looking at, what is occurring to me is an accident? Does it have meaning? Or am I putting meaning on it? And that's not to say that that's bad. So, as we, end our conversation today on coincidence and syncretism, I want to come back to that, evolution concept of what coincidence and syncretism did from our 90s definitions to our current definitions online. We create the meaning. We craft language so that it is valuable to us in this moment. The occurrence of events that happen at the same time by accident, but seem to have some connection, that is life. To me, that is life. All moments are an accident in some way. We have no control over how others choose to engage in their activities, their daily lives, goings on. And so we encounter coincidental moments in every moment. And it's only the ones that our brains decide to pick up on that we, deem coincidence. And then religion. That might be a large step, but as the domino meme says, it has to start from somewhere. So let us wrap up and bring the act and condition of coinciding with the time and the subject to an end. That, I don't think that made any sense. I grammatically, I think that was a very non-sentence. But I really do hope that this wandering exploration of the collection of concepts that is coincidence and syncretism helps you get out there and have some fun crafting sound meaning. I'm Sonatina. Thank you for joining me once again for Linguistics You Can Use. Did I forget to say that? I think I did. That's all the linguistics you can use for this week. If you do happen to have a topic of interest that you want to, explore, grammar-wise or, etymologically or anything else, right? On how does linguistics, how does our, reality come into reality? Let me know. Put a comment down below, send me an email, send me a tweet. I'm at Sound Meaning on Twitter and on very many other platforms, but Twitter is where I tend to be off more often. Have a great week and let me know if, I'm going to have a great week and we will see you for the next Linguistics You Can Use.